Nneka was not just a child. She was a goddess in a designer gown. While other girls her age were learning the rhythm of the pounding mortar or the sharp scent of the morning market, Nneka was learning the price of silence. Her father, Chief Adewale, was a man whose bank account was as deep as the Atlantic, and his love for his only daughter was a blind, suffocating thing. "If Nneka wants the moon," the chief would roar, his belly shaking with laughter, "I will hire 10 engineers to build a ladder to get it." But the moon is cold, and ladders made of money are slippery. Nneka was beautiful. There was no disputing that. Her skin was the color of dark honey, and her hair was always styled in intricate braids that cost more than a civil servant's monthly salary. But her beauty was like a sharp blade. It looked good from a distance, but it drew blood if you got too close. One afternoon, during the height of the dry season, when the air felt like a hot iron against the skin, an old woman approached the chief's gate. She was bent double, her wrapper faded to the color of dry earth. "Please," the old woman wheezed, her voice like dry leaves skittering on pavement, "just a cup of water. The sun is eating my soul." Nneka was standing by her father's brand new G-Wagon, complaining to her stylist because the shade of blue on her nails was too loud. She looked at the old woman, her nose wrinkling as if she had smelled a rotten carcass. "Move away from the gate," Nneka snapped, waving a hand adorned with gold rings. "You are getting dust on the car. Don't you see we are busy?" "My daughter," the woman whispered, "even the clouds give rain to the dry earth without asking for payment." Nneka laughed, a high, tinkling sound that had no joy in it. "Then go and wait for the clouds. My father didn't build this mansion to be a borehole for every beggar in the state." A week later, Nneka's 18th birthday arrived. It was the event of the decade. Musicians were flown in from Lagos. The champagne flowed like the Niger River during the rainy season. Among the mountains of gifts, jewelry, iPhones, designer bags, there was one small rectangular package wrapped in black velvet. No one knew who brought it. Nneka tore it open. Inside was a mirror, but it wasn't glass. It was a polished slab of silver so bright it seemed to glow. "Finally," Nneka smirked, looking at her reflection. "Something that actually shows how I look." But as she stared into the mirror, her reflection didn't move when she did. The Nneka in the mirror smiled a second later than the real Nneka. Her reflection's eyes were darker, wider, and filled with a hunger that made the real Nneka's blood turn to ice. She tried to drop the mirror, but it stuck to her palm. A cold wind suddenly whipped through the party, blowing out the expensive scented candles. The music died in a screech of feedback. "Daddy!" Nneka screamed. Chief Adewale ran to her, but as he reached out, he froze. He wasn't looking at his daughter. He was looking at the mirror. "Nneka," he whispered, his voice trembling, "why are your eyes bleeding in there?" From that night, the Nneka the village knew began to disappear. She became obsessed with the mirror. She stopped eating, stopped shouting at the servant, and stopped going out. She sat in her air-conditioned room staring. The scary part wasn't her silence, it was that her reflection was getting better. The Nneka in the mirror looked healthier. Her skin glowed with a supernatural light. Meanwhile, the real Nneka was wasting away. Her hair began to fall out in clumps. Her voice, once sharp and loud, became a raspy whistle. The chief spent millions. He brought doctors from London and herbalists from the deepest parts of Ekiti. They all said the same thing. There is nothing physically wrong with her. It is as if her life is being poured into a different container. One night, the chief's head driver, an old man named Pasilas, who had seen many things in his 70 years, pulled the chief aside. "Sir," Silas whispered, looking over his shoulder, "this is not hospital matter. This is a death matter. When you give a child everything, they never learn how to pay for anything. And now the spirits are collecting the payment themselves." Desperate, the chief broke into Nneka's room at midnight. The air was freezing despite the Nigerian heat outside. He saw Nneka sitting on the floor, but she wasn't alone. Standing over her was the old woman from the gate, the one Nneka had refused a cup of water. But she wasn't old anymore. She was a towering figure of shadows, draped in necklaces of bone and silver. "Take me instead," the chief cried, falling to his knees. "I spoiled her. I made her this way. It is my fault, not hers." The shadow woman turned. "You think this is about her being spoilt? No, Adewale. Look closer at your daughter." The chief saw the mirror lying on the floor, shattered. But there were two Nnekas in the room. One was the frail, dying girl. The other was the beautiful, arrogant version of Nneka. 18 years ago, you made a deal for wealth. You traded your firstborn spirit for those oil blocks and mansions. I didn't curse her today at the gate. I only came to see if the soul I left her with, the tiny spark of humanity, had grown. If she had given me that water, the deal would have been broken. But she didn't.
The spoilt Nneka was actually a shell created by the chief's own greed years ago. The real daughter had been trapped inside the silver mirror all along, watching her father love a ghost of his own making. The chief gasped, his heart clutching in his chest. He looked at the frail, dying girl, the real Nneka who had been suppressed by the goddess he had celebrated. "I can save the one with the soul," the shadow woman said, pointing to the dying girl. "But to do it, everything you built with the blood of that deal must go. The house, the cars, the money. You will be a beggar at the same gate where she refused me water." The chief didn't hesitate. Take it all." In a flash of blinding silver light, the mansion shook, the walls cracked, the expensive chandeliers shattered into 1,000,000 diamonds of glass.
If you visit Olo-Ife today, you won't find a mansion. You will find a small, neat farm. There is an old man there, his hands calloused from the soil. Beside him is a young woman. She isn't wearing designer clothes. She wears a simple cotton wrapper. She isn't beautiful in the way the magazines say. She has a scar on her cheek and her hands are stained with palm oil. But when a stranger passes by, she is the first to run to the well. She offers the water with a smile that is genuine, a smile that finally moves at the same time as her heart. The villagers say the chief is the happiest man in the land, even though he is poor. Because for the first time in 18 years, when he looks at his daughter, he is not looking at a reflection of his wealth. He is looking at a human being. But sometimes at night, when the moon is full, they say you can still hear a high, tinkling laugh coming from the bushes, the sound of the spoilt Nneka still looking for a mirror that no longer exists.